Environment Regeneration meeting, and to get us started, I'll ask Karen to take the roll, please.
Thank you, Chair. To all members of Environment and Regeneration Committee, you're hereby summoned to attend the monthly meeting of Environment and Regeneration Committee, which will be a hybrid meeting to be conducted remotely via WebEx and physically in the Council Chamber on Wednesday the 15th of November at 4 p.m. And I'll take the roll. Alderman Derek Hussey. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
Here, Karen.
Thank you. Alderman Julie Middleton.
Here, Karen, I'm online.
Thank you. Councillor Jason Barr.
Here, Karen, online.
Thank you. Councillor Raymond Barr, we have apologies for. Councillor John Boyle.
Here.
Thank you. Councillor Caitlin Deeney.
Shot.
Thank you. Councillor Alex Duffy.
Shot.
Councillor Brian Hart.
And shot.
Councillor Emma McGinley. Councillor Rory McHugh.
Shot.
Councillor Patrick Murphy.
And shot.
Councillor Declan Norris.
Here.
Councillor Martin Riley.
Here, Karen.
Thank you. And that's us, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Karen. Members, our next item then is the broadcast statement. So I would like to remind everyone present at this meeting in the chamber or in attendance remotely that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. Due to your attendance at this meeting, you are consenting to being filmed and to the use and storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. Members and approved speakers are reminded to only have their mics and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility to highlight a request to speak. A copy of the Council privacy notice may be found on the Council website. So then, members, that takes us now to item 5, which is our presentations for the meeting. Just sorry, before we do that, is there any member or declarations of members' interest? If so, you can declare them as we go on or put them into the chat box. So our presentations today, we have 2 presentations. We have Sharon Doherty, who's presenting on behalf of St Colum's Park House. And then we have Mr Ian Humphreys and Gareth Lamrock, who are presenting regarding the work of Keep Northern Ireland Beautiful. So we'll have Sharon first, and then we'll open it up for members' comments and questions. Thank you.
Thank you, elected members, for the opportunity to come and present the work of St Colum's Park House. And just to, I suppose, tell you a wee bit about what we do, who we are, and the impact that we're having in your local council area. So St Colum's Park House, we're established in 1994, and our primary focus is as a peace and reconciliation centre. And we offer 2 businesses. One is the house, which is a social enterprise, and that offers conference facilities, room hire. We have residential accommodation for constituted groups, youth groups, schools, and local community organisations. And any surplus from that social enterprise is covenanted back to the Reconciliation Trust, which is the charity. And that charity delivers peace building programmes across the city. And community development support in areas of greatest need. And that includes, we currently employ the community worker at Currynearn, and that's to enable some really valuable work to take place at the interface and to have a peer worker for their counterpart in Tullyalley. The focus in that work is really to build trust across the interface, to build relationships with the key stakeholders, and to secure investment for that area as a whole. Our second slide there, our mission statement focuses on the empowerment of local people and creating that sort of sense of ownership within our community. Our aim is really to create an effective and durable peace model that's built on connection and ownership, where people are working together and being involved in peace building, actively involved in peace building in this community. Our values are peace, place, and people. Our people, in terms of connecting people to each other, building on the value that they can add to their communities and developing that sense of ownership of that community. Place then is connecting those people to the place that they call home. And that can be the city as a whole. For us, it can be the park. And it can just be their local estate where they feel home is to them. It's creating that sense of belonging and that pride in where they belong and where they come from. Our value of peace then is connecting people to peace, keeping peace to the fore of all our projects and the work that we do at St Colum's Park House, and to try and build a sustainable model of peace that gets everyone positively and actively involved in continuing the peace building work that we're doing. Our slide 4. So our story so far, St Colum's Park House and the Trust have restored the house as it is now, actually twice. In 1994, the house was derelict for about a period of 10 years. And we brought it from that derelict state, and the Trust was established as a Peace and Reconciliation Centre. In 2013, it was modernised again, just to make it more accessible, more user-friendly, and to meet the current legislation. A total investment of just over £1 million. And St Colum's Park House, since then, since 2013, have continued to maintain the council's asset as a community hub. We average somewhere in around 10 to 12,000 visitors a year, and that's across the accommodation, our conference facilities, the walled garden, and our community projects. Our slide 5 then, we've secured in excess of about £5 million worth of investment and funding since 2013 in our community projects. We're reaching thousands of local people every year. We're creating jobs. We're building trust and partnerships across a wide variety of community organisations and support services. We're changing attitudes towards peace, towards each other and towards communities. And we're connecting people to place and building peace collectively. Our slide 6 shows that we're taking what we would call an asset-based approach to young people. They're the ones who'll take on this mantle of continued peace building and sustained peace building. So they are an asset in this local community. We're supporting over 750 young people every year, developing local leadership skills, building confidence and capacity in those young people, connecting them to peace building, making sure that they see that they have a role in sustaining peace in our communities going forward, and creating new opportunities for them in either education, employment, or positive engagement in their communities, becoming active citizens. Slide 7. Our work is currently working on building a local bank of volunteers, connecting people to place. We have about 5,500 hours annually of volunteer time, and that's local people giving back to their local community. We've a group there of what they call themselves the Garden Guardians, and they're giving of their time twice a week, working on the grounds of the house. We have a really strong partnership with the community service placements through the probation board, and they do the heavy lifting, as we call it, all the heavy duty stuff in terms of the grounds. And the addition of the walled garden, which was a partnership programme through Peace 4 between ourselves and local council, restored the garden at the rear of the house, and that has dramatically enhanced the offer that we have available to our local community. It connects people back to place, it connects them to nature, and we all know all the research that's connected to green space and the improvement to health and well-being as a result of being in that green space. And it's also a really strong peace-building tool for us, connecting people back to place. We work with a really diverse range of groups, that, work with groups who have mental health challenges, mobility challenges. Just a very quick mention of a case study. We have a programme that works in partnership with the Western Trust and their occupational therapists. And we had a young lady who hadn't been out of her house in 3 years. She came from Sion Mills. Her OT went to collect her and brought her to the programme every day or every week for a full year. She continued on the programme for another 6 months, but she was able to come on the bus from Sion Mills herself down to the programme. She now volunteers as part of the Garden Guardians and has just signed up this September to do a horticulture programme in the Tech. So the programme that she was on, how do you put a value on that? But that's a partnership approach with the Western Trust. Our other programmes that we currently offer in slide 8, we've just started our lottery funded project called Bloom, which is building local outdoor opportunities to meet, and that's post-COVID. Getting people back into that place, reconnecting, breaking down those barriers of social isolation that sort of normalised self-isolation, getting them back into their space. The Ignite project works with vulnerable young adults who are on the fringes of the criminal justice system, who are what we term NEET, which is a horrible phrase, but they're not in education, employment or training for more than 12 months. And we currently work with 25 young people on that programme, encouraging them to build the skills to see employment as a real opportunity for them. Our Connecting at the Interface is our project that supports the work of the community worker for Currynearn and the peer relationship building with Tully Alley. Fight for Myself is a programme that's based at McGilligan Prison, and we use martial arts to change attitude, manage anger, working with 15 young offenders in the criminal justice system at McGilligan. Moving Peace Forward is a dialogue-based project that poses 3 questions. What does peace look like today? What does community look like today? And how can this community actively move peace forward? And the Back Lanes project is a reimagining project with schools and local resident groups or associations where they reimagine a space that's associated with antisocial behaviour, back lanes essentially. And slide 9 shows our sort of the here and now, our challenges as a charity and a community organisation. Obviously, I'm not telling you something that you don't already know. The increased financial pressures and the rising cost of energy is just one example. The long-term lack of any kind of sustained funding, and that's coming from the insecurities around local government and the additional pressures in the community and voluntary sector, and an increased demand for services. And we see that coming from particularly statutories as well as local community organisations. For us, the priorities are to secure long-term core funding, project funding. It's becoming more competitive, but we're pretty successful in that. But core funding is really, really hard to get, enough to cover our core costs. Connecting personal health and well-being to sustaining peace. And I think that for us is a priority. If we and ourselves are not well, then we can't actively and positively work at building peace as a community. We see a raft of different personal health and well-being issues in terms of drug dependence, prescription drugs, illegal drugs, alcohol, poverty, hunger, the cost of living crisis. And then to create that sense of a hub, a community hub, that space is a shared green space for our community across the city. And the Peace Bridge has opened up the park so brilliantly for us, so that, we're accessible now to most of the city and beyond. So those are our challenges and priorities going forward. For us, it's key as an organisation that we continue to do the work that we do. We're privileged to be in the location that we are in, and to be able to continue to work in partnership with Council going forward. So thank you very much for the opportunity to show off.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. And I had the pleasure myself of been out in St. Colum's Park House on numerous occasions for different meetings, and I was part of the Peace Board, and I'm acutely aware of the St. Colum's garden out there. The last time I seen it was just been reseeded, so it's great to see the photographs there of it, and the grass growing in there and it being utilised. So, members, I'll go to you now and ask for your comments or any questions. Councillor Deeney.
Thank you so much for your presentation. You do great work, not only in the waterside, but across the city and district. I've brought my 3-year-old daughter to a couple of events over the summer and she just absolutely loved them. The garden's absolutely beautiful. So thank you for all your work.
Thank you. You can actually get her to join the Curiosity Club.
And we have Councillor Martin Riley online.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Sharon, for the presentation. And it's really useful to see the full value of the work that's been provided there. I think as the various different slides show, there's work happening in the building, but the outreach it goes far beyond that part of the waterside, and indeed beyond all of the waterside in terms of the work that you're doing at McGilligan, for example. So really valuable to hear it all and to see it laid out and the slides to be presented here today in public. So thank you to all the staff there that carry out such good work, and thank you, Chair, for allowing me in.
Thanks, Councillor Riley and Alderman Middleton.
Thank you, Chair, and I'm sorry everyone, I have a really sore throat again, and thank you, Sharon, for your presentation, which has been informative and just really lovely to hear. St. Colum's Park House and the garden is a really special area, certainly for me and my family, and I'm sure probably for most of us. Your people, place and peace model is evident not only because what you've presented on today, but also just through the many wonderful projects and peace and reconciliation work that you are carrying out actively. We all know your projects are inclusive, really well thought out and really well ran both by staff and volunteers, and mostly held in the beautiful setting of the St. Colum's Park House and grounds, which is something that we're really proud to see utilised within our council area. We recognise that you're facing challenges, but we do look forward to you securing well-deserved long-term funding, which we are sure will come to you because it's so well-deserved. So when the opportunity arises, we'll be very happy for you indeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Middleton, and we have Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies for the arrival. Apologies especially to yourself, Sharon. And thank you for the slides which we had and gone through those. And just a reminder, St. Colum's Park House and the work that it does predates this council before amalgamation, because I well remember many's a meeting from Strabane Council being held down there. So it's tremendous work that's been done over a long, long period of time. And just to say thank you for that.
Okay, I have no other members indicated. Sorry, Alderman Kerrigan online.
Thank you, Chair. To be fair, Alderman Middleton covered it, but it was more just, as I say, I would have been in the past and the Peace Plus meetings and in St. Colum's Park House, and just welcome the presentation that was gave. And as I say, I'm glad to see that there are those from our end as well, Chair, when she mentioned the lady from Sion Mills, who are also attending and using the facilities. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Boyle.
Thanks, Chair. Sharon, thanks for coming in. I think it was important that you did actually come in and present to this committee and that you got the opportunity to show off because there's an awful lot to boast about when we actually look at the kind of work that you do. And perhaps that's something that not all groups get the opportunity to do is to show the kind of diversity of the work that you see. I'm very familiar with the St. Colum's Park House. I'm sure most, if not all of us, actually are. And the level of investment that's gone into the facility, the amount of money that's been accrued and put into community peace building projects. I mean, I do have to say, I mean, that's actually is quite immeasurable. I'm very specifically, and I'm familiar with it myself from long before I was ever an elected representative of the work that you do with young people in particular. People always say young people are the future. Actually, I would argue young people are the here and the now, and it's the work that you do, the here and now, that is particularly important because whatever positive influences with whatever organisation it might be that we have with young people, that grows and that blossoms, and that's the work that I see St Colum's Park House doing. And just to assure you, certainly from an SDLP perspective, anyway, of our continued support for the work that you do. Very conscious, obviously, you know, we're living in a time when financial pressures are extreme, and this committee knows the financial pressures that you have experienced over the last while. But the important thing is that you're still here, you're still doing the work. And again, from a personal perspective, if there's ever anything that I can do to assist, then I'm only a phone call away. And I know I'd be speaking for my colleagues when I say that as well. So again, Sharon, just thank you for the presentation. And you know what? There's no harm in coming in and showing off. I'm glad you got that chance. Thanks, Chair.
Again, thank you very much for the opportunity and your interest and your support. The kettle is always on in St Colum's Park House, and you know it's one thing me showing off here, but we'd be delighted to show off in reality and to invite you all to St Colum's Park House. One last wee note of show off, if I'm allowed. In partnership with Council, we took part in the Britain in Bloom, and we actually won collectively. I won't take it all the credit ourselves, but we won a community innovation award as part of that submission. And that, you know, what I say to people is that that's not our work. That's the work of the community. That's your work. And for us to have people there that day to talk to the judges and to talk about their work was fantastic, because it's not just our work. It's the work of a lot of other people, volunteers, support services, local representatives, elected members. So it is a very much, St Colum's Park House is very much a partnership. It's a team effort. No one person is bigger than the sum of all parts. So the door is always open, the kettle is always on. So feel free anytime to call in and see what we do and meet some of the people that we do it with. And thank you again for the opportunity today. Really appreciate it.
Just before we let you go, I know our director, Karen Phillips, would like to say a few words. Just.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Members, just to, I suppose, reiterate some of what Sharon said. We work very closely with her and her team across a number of our teams in order to I suppose, enjoy our shared asset, the wider park, and then obviously St Colum's Park House. And, you know, Sharon and her team were very generous with their time and effort whenever the Britain and Bloom judges came over to do that was actually the National Britain and Bloom Award, so it was across the whole UK. And indeed, we had won it the last time overall, the Small City Award, the last time we could win it. Then you're not allowed to for a period of time. We as you know, won the Gold Award, and I think really they were really, so they said to me on the day, blown away by the community engagement element of what we were doing with St Colum's Park House and others, and we're really so impressed with that. It was just so good to be able to get that community engagement innovation award from them at the award ceremony Connor attended on behalf of Council in London to receive that. So to thank Sharon and her team, and I know certainly we only hope that we can increase the partnership and collaboration as we move forward. We've got a fantastic asset set within an absolutely amazing park. We also have, as you know, members, our Acorn Farm project, which is at the very north of St Colum's Park site, and we are already working with Sharon to see how we can collaborate about some of the programmes that we will run out of the Acorn Farm programme. And as Sharon had said, it's just brilliant to see, you know, that aspect of community engagement and translating in many cases and the skills development in order to sort of feed back to protect and enhance our environment. And that's, again, what we're all about. So thank you, Sharon, and we'll see you soon.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Thanks. Just to say, it was a wee bit remiss of us to forget that you actually were part of that Community Innovation Award. So I think it appropriate, Chair, through you, if we congratulate Sharon and all the team at St. Collins Park House, and actually on the back and foot of what our director has said as well. You know, it's a positive story going forward. So it's onwards and upwards, really. You know, really look forward to seeing those future developments as well. Chair mentioned by Karen. So good luck with that as well. Sharon, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. Members, that brings us now to item 6, which is our next presentation regarding the work of Keep Northern Ireland Beautiful. And we have Mr. Ian Humphreys and Gareth Lamrock.
Councillors, I want to thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening about the work of Keep Northern Ireland Beautiful, the organisation that we both work for, myself and Gareth Lamrock, to tell you a bit about what we've been up to in the Derry Strabane area specifically, and to try and ensure, hopefully, that the benefits of these programmes, which reach the entire community without exception, are retained in this area. And we all share the aim, I think, of improving the local community. We can, on a slide, I'm not going to, I take you all get these slides to look at. So I'm going to, I know you've got a long night ahead of you. So if we can go to the next one, and the next one again, I'll leave you to read those at your leisure. I'm going to just do a quick recce of the 2 programmes you've just seen up there, Eco Schools and Live Here, Love Here. It's some of the detail of that I think is very important. But if we start with Eco Schools, very heavy focus now on the big environmental issues that are facing us. It's in the news and it's literally on our doorstep now with the flooding we've had in the last week. The things that we've been reading about and listening to in the news are now very much closer to home and will be repeating themselves more regularly. So it's timely then that the UN has decided to get involved in setting standards for schools and is backing the Eco Schools programme. They've set a target through the Greening Education programme of 50% of schools with the green flag or an equivalent mark, but green flag is you look at the way it's written, it's the 7 steps of Eco Schools by 2030. We in our strategy and in the Northern Ireland Environment Strategy have that target for 2025, 50%. Derry and Strabane well on the way. Gareth will talk a little bit more about that momentarily. But that's just one example of where what you're doing and what you're supporting is aligning not just for this area in terms of producing the leaders, which this area is famous for, the leadership of tomorrow, and I know, and today. But it's not just doing that, it's investing in things that are also aligning nationally, internationally. So if I can go on the next slide as well, thank you. You've all received this information card. I hope that you've got that through email. Is that fair to? Yeah, okay, thank you. We'll go on to the next one. It's very small print there. So for me, I'll drill into a few areas of it. So here we have some of our work on textiles. We're working with plastics and textiles, particularly. We're looking at circular economy issues. We've been working in the local area here. And we're looking at things, again, if I go back to schools, the biggest carbon footprint, you know, you might guess it's transport to and from the school with all the parents driving in and driving out. It's not. You might then guess it's energy for the schools. It's not. It's actually the uniforms. That's the biggest carbon footprint. Uniforms and kit for schools, biggest footprint for them. And we're trying to deal with that and look at ways to drive efficiency in that. And also, while we want the economy to thrive, and I'll come on to that, we also want to be quite careful in our consumption. So we buy things that will last and we demand things that will last. We can go on to the next slide. Thank you. That's still small print, but you'd have had it in front of you. And we can start to see some of the extra monies that we have brought to the programme through our work. And if we go to the next slide. In the previous year, you invested £22,000 in Live Here, Love Here. You invested £10,942 in eco-schools. Taking those figures and looking at the additional cash money, and I'm not talking about the media coverage value or the money we got to run the programme through our staffing. I'm talking literally cash value that came into Derry and Strabane area. We multiplied that. So every pound that you put in, another £9.35 came into the local area, into schools, into community groups, into projects, which will have been spent majority through local businesses. The threat to that, if you, as you have done right now, withdraw from this programme, is that benefit to this area is under threat. And the power of and our ability to bring that extra money in has come through the fact that we have, for many years now, collaborated on this. This hasn't been a project of this organisation. It has been a shared mission and vision of most of the councils, nearly all the councils, of the likes of Housing Executive, or recently TransLink, ourselves, who have invested small amounts of money into this work that has then been able to allow us to leverage, I would say, substantial amounts of additional money. And I don't promise this figure every year, but I am taking the last full year's figures. And there are grants live. In fact, one grant has just closed, the Marine Litter Grant, which council can also avail of directly. I know that grant will go on for some years to come, as an example, on top of the small grants that you invest in. So, you know, this is a campaign about putting in place the behaviours around littering and waste, consuming wisely, also tackling things like climate change. And we're making important progress on that. The awareness of Live Here, Love Here is now not far off 70%. And we don't invest a lot in the media side of things, but actually we're told it's hitting like a heavyweight campaign with a lightweight investment. That's because of the partnership. Again, this isn't something that we just push out from the centre. It has a local life, a local presence. And on eco-schools, we have 22 green flags in the district. We've got thousands, literally thousands of young people directly involved. We've done 67 visits to schools in the area in the last year, and that's ongoing all the time. Support for community groups as well and schools on the ground, giving that advice, supporting, equipping what will be the next generation of leaders, fighting back against what is a very real, very present and current danger of the climate emergency. So I will stop there for now, okay? I've thrown a lot of figures at you. You've got a lot more in front of you, and enough is enough on that front because, as I say, you've plenty to get through tonight. But I would like to hand over to Gareth and then come back just for a couple of final sentences at the end. But Gareth works in a local area, and Gareth, over to you.
How you doing, folks? So my name's Gareth. I work as a field officer for KNAB across eco schools and across Love Here, Love Here. June last year, I had the pleasure of taking those 22 flags out to the new schools that had just achieved their green flags. The vast majority of those schools were brand new eco schools who had never had a flag before. My presence on that, I think you said about blowing your own trumpet, my presence on the ground has helped that, okay? So getting in there, having support for the teachers. The one thing that I noticed across all 22 of those schools that I visited, and every school that I visit, day in, day out, only yesterday I was in 4 different schools, is that the drive and the sense of achievement that those pupils and teachers who are putting the effort on get when they receive that flag. It's an international award. It's not an easy thing to get. And they put the work on, and the young people really, really buy into it and get on it. Some of the work that happens, I would invite any of you to actually call out and see some of the eco schools sometime. Blees Lane Nursery School in particular is one. I know that the mayor on the board of directors, I met her at the when it was giving them the flag. But for such a small space, they have turned that into just an environmental, an oasis, something where it is. And those schools stretched across the entire provincial area, from Killen, Plumbridge, Park, Claudy, both schools in Eggleton, all getting together and coming and working towards the flag, and as well as the schools in the town. So it's getting out there. The word is out. This year, we're looking at improving that figure again. So we more than doubled it last year. We're looking at doing that more than that again this year. And I think we're on target. Like I say, yesterday I was in four different schools. I've had another 4 brand new schools contact me in the past fortnight, looking to get involved. How can I come out and help? And the crossover between Eco Schools and Love Here, Love Here is the RDC. Most of those schools that got their flags, all through us, learned about Love Here, availed of those pollinator grants, put gardens in their schools that they didn't have before, and vice versa. Schools that had done Love Here work were learning about Eco Schools. So we were able to get in there and use that as a tool in order to push the green flags into the schools. As Ian says, there's thousands of kids. This isn't just the wee eco committees. The schools are all on board with it. These are secondary schools. Last year we had St Joseph's, St Bridget's. We've had schools that traditionally go for their green flag, like Steelstown and St John's are, who go for the flag every year. But to say that most of them were brand new schools coming on. And that's a big deal for teachers to be putting that effort on, as their work's getting harder. We can all agree on that. It's getting a lot harder for them to do their job. They're committing to it, and it's a good thing to see. And this is our schools. This is my kids' schools. This is your kids' schools, your nephews, your nieces, probably schools that some of you went to. So I'll pass back over to Ian. He can.
All right, Gareth, thank you. So I'll end my remarks by saying, look, we do understand that you as councillors have some incredibly difficult decisions. In fact, you've made some incredibly difficult decisions already, which is, part of the reason we're here talking to you tonight. Those decisions will, flow over into the next financial year, and you'll be budgeting and planning for that year now. There'll be tough choices, and I'm sure demand for your services and support is increasing at a time when inflation's removing budget from you, cuts are removing budget from you. So you're in a hard place. I don't question that. But I have to tell you, I've always taken my role seriously in making sure the money you invest in what we do in your area is spent well. We take that role as custodian of what is ratepayers' money very seriously. And if you remember, some of you might, I don't know, but when we set this programme up, particularly Live Here, Love Here, I promised, and next year is 10 years of Live Here, Love Here, I promised we wouldn't ask for any more money, and that any more money we needed for the programme, we would go out and find. So despite inflation and costs rising, salaries rising, etc., over those 10 years, we have never asked for more funding for that programme. And again, we're not asking for more funding, we're asking for it to be retained as it was set 10 years ago in absolute terms, real terms. There's been no increase, inflationary increase, no increase at all. We're not asking for that. But we need a core of funding to be able to drive that development and investment in the area, as we are across all of the areas that we're working in. So to me, cutting the programmes, particularly Live Here, Love Here and Eco Schools, and I know you work with us on other things as well, but particularly those programmes, doesn't really ultimately mean savings for the council, because the losses that come with that means schools and community groups are even more in need of your support, because that additional financial and on the ground, as Gareth does, support disappears or is under threat of that. It means the loss of the expertise, the support that we can give to make ideas, innovations thrive. And more importantly, I think it means that loss of ambition and an ability to fight the climate emergency. Young people are being failed by the education system right now. There's virtually no mention of climate change unless you do geography and unless the teacher really wants to focus on that optional part of it. Okay, we're working with the Department of Education. They are now talking about getting climate education into every subject area in post-primary. We've introduced an OCN course on climate action, which means you can now get an equivalent grade B in GCSE through studying that. Teachers are starting to pick that up. So that helps us move into the post-primary sector, which I know Eco Schools hasn't been very strong in the past. So working with you over a lot of years and with your officers, we've achieved a lot. We've achieved it only by being together. I would like us to get back on track, if not this year, then next, and keep what is a very necessary and good thing going. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you to both Ian and Gareth for that very informative presentation. Just listening to your presentation there, you know, and the work that you are carrying out and promoting, I think it's very important work, especially in terms of the environmental issues, risks that are coming at us, not least, as you mentioned yourself, climate change. So, as I say, that's some very important work you're involved in, important that it continues to be carried out and indeed expanded on. I'm going to open it now just to the floor for councillors. I have Councillor Norris indicated here.
Thank you, Ian and Gareth, for coming on. That was a great presentation. And I know Gareth personally, and I see the work he does every day, you know, around the schools. Obviously, I'm from Eglinton as well, and I know the two schools are involved in that. Be involved, but with the schools and it, and the enjoyment that the kids get out of the programme, it's amazing, you know, and we need to support this, we need to carry this on, you know, because, and like even the eco schools, it's got knock-on effects. So like the active school, the active travel plan, you know, it sort of connects some of it, you know, the eco schools is all connections, you know, and I'm working with them at the moment with active travel plans for Eglinton School with all the sort of the lorries and all going through the village and all. So it's all got knock-on effects, you know, so it's good. And thank you so much for coming on.
Councillor Hart.
Thanks, Chair. Welcome the report and the great work that your organisation performs, especially in schools, where we can influence behaviours from an early age, and I think that's very important. From Sinn Féin perspective, locally, I represent Strabane Town and the locality. We're very active in the community in clean-up exercises and litter picking events. I also organised a Plastic DC event whereby activists conducted a clean-up of plastic bottles along the Moor and the Foyle River banking in Strabane and Lifford. I also note the Stop, Drop, Shop, Love It campaign, and it's a great way to not only recycle clothes, as you said, that was one of the biggest carbon footprints. So, but it also offers those less fortunate an opportunity to purchase, and it's something many charities provide locally. So, thanks for the report. Thank you.
And online we have Councillor Donnelly.
Good, Chair. Look, just like to thank Gareth and Ian for their presentation. It's probably, as outlined, one of the most important issues facing the planet at the minute. Today we had an event in the main hall where I would say there was probably maybe up to a dozen primary schools right throughout the district, and the topic of conversation was climate change. I think that the work that they've outlined that's being done here, particularly the work within the schools, is phenomenal, you know, because I think education is key. The you know, trying to defeat, you know, try to address this issue. So just the you know, commend the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. If any other indicated speakers? Councillor Boyle.
Just briefly, welcome the fact that you come in today to explain to us, you know, the kind of work that you are doing. Sometimes people think we should know everything, and that's just not possible, and I'm sure you know that. And it's very heartening to see the level of engagement that we're seeing across the piece, particularly with young people and through the Eco Schools project. And it's very encouraging to know that, your ambition is to expand on the network of schools that you've got working with you, Gareth. It was quite funny, or in a sense, that the slide that you stopped on was the bottom line slide, and I think that's something that kind of has to focus our minds, that we have to see the value of these types of projects and see what it is that the contributions that we make contribute to a further expansion of the kind of work that you're doing. So the bottom lines are impressive, no doubt about it. I mean, the investment from the council here is fairly modest, if I was going to be honest about it. So, I've got to be fair to you here and say, you've come in, you've presented a very strong argument for continued support from this council. And you're right, Ian, we have an awful lot of difficult decisions to make. And that's not me sort of weeping my eyes out and saying we just have to do those sorts of things. But these are the kind of things that I think we need to be thinking about ring fencing and continuing with, for all the good reasons that you've outlined here today, and other members have clearly shown their support to it as well. So again, congratulations on the work that you do, and I do, of course, wishes the very best with it. I'd love to go and see some of these projects that you work with. Gareth, drop me a line and we'll get that organised. Whenever I was at school, it's a long time ago, we had things called nature tables, and that was about the height of it. They're making a comeback. That's great. I'm delighted to hear that. They're making a comeback. So maybe I'll get out to some of these schools myself and see the nature tables as they used to be, When I think back on some of the stuff, maybe there was stuff we were bringing into school that we probably should have left alone. But anyway, it was what it was at the time. So it's great work, and I congratulate you, and I wish you well with it. So, and as I said, maybe touch base with our officer team, and a wee invite could be extended to members of the committee and even full council, and see who might want to take it up. I'd love to get a look at it myself. Thank you.
And we have Alderman Middleton online as well.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Ian and Gareth for your presentation, and also for your really important work. As a party, we care deeply about our natural habitats, our biodiversity, our climate action, proactively finding solutions to the serious issues that come hand in hand with waste and pollution. So we think it's really wonderful that you're recognising our school children as eco-activists. This engagement is not only a necessity, it's also incredibly forward-thinking work. Our young people are citizens now, and it's brilliant to infuse them through your programme. Aside from my role as councillor, I'm also a mummy, and I have an amazing 6-year-old son who cares so deeply about our environment that he calls himself nature's friend. I'm so glad that you're working hard to foster my David, but also all the children in our council area, and I'm just really thankful for your time. Thank you.
And Alderman Kerrigan online as well.
Thank you, Chair, very much. And to be fair, Alderman Middleton's already spoke there. But again, I just thank them, members, for their presentation there and for the good work that they are doing. And again, this seemed to be, or maybe I'm confusing the situation here. I thought this was one of the schemes that as I say, I think it was a community group that had come to me, had applied under funding for this scheme, and didn't get money because this council no longer funded it. So again, something we'll have to look at in the RITS process, but I apologise in case I am wrong with that one, but I know like that was the case. But thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Kerrigan, and I'm going to ask Karen to come on as well here.
Thank you, Chair. And through you, Chair, it's good to see Ian and Gareth had taken the time to come in today. And I know it was useful for the committee to be praised of all of the work that they've done over the last number of years. And I know certainly Ian has written formally to the Chief Executive in relation to the potential for reinstating funding for next financial year. As members will be aware, the funding had been cut as part of the rates estimates process last year. We will, with members' endorsement, bring that as a paper to you as part of the rates estimates process process to be considered, I suppose, initially by the finance working group and then I suppose by council as part of the rates estimates process. So we can have those conversations again as we move forward in terms of members' views in relation to that. We'll stay in contact with Ian and Gareth in relation to that, and hopefully continue the collaborative work that we've been doing over a number of years. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Karen. Members, that brings us to the end of our 2 presentations. So I just want to thank, as chair of the committee, both Gareth and Ian again for presenting to the committee. Wish you well for the future. Thank you. Okay, members, we'll return to the agenda now, and item 7 is chair's business. There's no member has contacted me, so then we'll go then to item 8, which is our minutes of the previous meeting, pages 27 to 34. Anybody, any matters raising? Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair. Yesterday, we at another committee, the issue of the duration of the Foyle Street works was highlighted in terms of this at our last meeting. I was of the understanding, and others were, that we were talking about 6 months. And there seems to be an issue now that it could be a year. Can we have an update on what exactly is happening here? I have another matter after this, Chair.
Through you, Chair, members, when we had engaged initially with Northern Ireland Water and when they were presenting to the committee, they were very clear that these works were going to last for a year. So that is the case, and that's the phase, the initial phase, and there will be further works further on down the street, if you like, as phase 2, which they also outlined during the presentation. We can potentially resend their presentation to members for your information that Northern Ireland Water gave to the committee. So we can recirculate that for members' approval.
Thank you, Chair. Perhaps there's a breakdown in communication between departments then, because yesterday the costing of the mitigation money to council was for 6 months, but apparently that is wrong. Is that correct?
And certainly take that up with colleagues in business and culture. It may well have been something to do with the years or something like that they fell under. I'm not 100% sure. Tony, do you know anything more in relation to that?
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, we've been engaging with over the past couple of days with our colleagues in business and culture, and obviously the report had said it, as you correctly noted, 6 months. But having the most recent conversations with the colleagues is that it's to reflect the period of the actual works, which is actually in and around 12 to 13 months, and that actually has been conveyed back in terms of communication with Northern Ireland Water as well, to clarify that ambiguity, because obviously it was something which had arisen yesterday.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sure it's an ongoing item. I think aren't NI Water due to come into ENR again beginning of the year?
Through you, Chair, we did suggest, or members that suggested that when they spoke to ENR, that they come back and at a time in the future to update in terms of how they're getting on with the project. So we can certainly arrange for that to happen, absolutely.
Second item, and I'm slightly cheeky here, it's 213. It's the proposed parking bays at various locations in Castlederg and with regard to the town centre. In the town centre, as you know yourself, Chair, there's ongoing work with street lighting standards, and I understand that it's part of the overall levelling up scenario. But there is concern in the town that when these were erected, the brickwork has not been replaced, rather it has been tarmacked in. Could we have some indication from street lighting as to what their intention is? Do they intend to replace the brickwork pavements that currently they have simply tarmacked? Thank you, Chair.
Through you, Chair, we can take that up definitely with DFI. Normally, in my experience in the past in other sites, sometimes they do a two-phased approach where they will do tarmac first and they will come back and reinstate. But we can certainly take it up with them.
Okay, members, anybody else under matters arising? Go ahead, Councillor McGinley.
Mega Chair, it's just a wee brief one, ER 220/23, the update in the Glenowin Task Force. And again, it's just to thank the team. We had a meeting last week with the Glenowin Task Force, and I know the residents are really grateful for Council's commitment date and some other bodies. It was disappointing some statutory bodies weren't there when they should have been, but we have a plan in place to follow up on that. But it's just to keep it on the record, and again to thank the Council team for the commitment to resolving the issues in Glenowin. Thank you.
And Councillor Jason Barr online.
Thank you, Chair. It's just regarding the large car park in John Wesley Street in Strabane. Just the past 2 days, traffic wardens actually stopped me on the issue. One of them is just as you come off the pavement there when you cross the road at Argos, the drop curb, there's a parking spot in front of the drop curb, which isn't allowing those who park in the disabled spots or in wheelchairs to get up onto the curb. So maybe that should be relooked at in regarding of removing that one parking spot with and replacing it just with white lines so no parking there. And then just to refer to the group of disabled parking bays there about they need relined one, but also when it rains, a lot of water gathers on them. And it's causing quite an issue for anybody that has to step out of their vehicle or be assisted out of their vehicle at that point. So if that can just be looked at, just at that wee section on John Wesley, to say just at the drop curb, if that parking bay can be removed, because people's been booked on that for sitting there, because you're not supposed to sit in front of a drop curb. So it seems to be a bit of an issue where, so people's been booked there, and then obviously the traffic warden is then having to tell them, look, you need to go to DFI, explain your situation, and then there's people then who's parking in bays that are not lined properly and then getting booked for being parked over the line when it's not basically their fault. So if that issues can be looked in, that would be great. Chair, thank you.
Through you, Chair, members, we can take that with DFI on members' behalf. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, members, that was item 8. So item 9 is the request for consent to enhance existing council and bus shelters at Gallia, and Connor is going to take this report for us.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It's to seek and get members' consent with regard to bus shelter enhancement scheme for 3 number bus shelters owned by council within the Gallia area. Members will be aware that council provides and maintains a number of bus shelters across the city and district. And in consideration of this, council has received a request from Outer North Neighbourhood Partnership and the Ballyarnart Local Growth Partnership to enhance 3 number existing bus shelters in the Gallia area. Outer North Partnership secured the funding to enhance the shelters within the project. Outer North have requested that council agree to enhancement of the existing bus shelters and that they will cover all of the works associated with the project at absolutely no cost to council. If the project is a success, Outer North Partnership may apply for further funds to propose to enhance additional bus shelters across the city and district. These shelters are regularly subject to graffiti and vandalism. This project may reduce the instances of graffiti and the need for council to step in and carry out further works. So I say the enhancement of the council and bus shelters in Gallia would mean that they are restored to an aesthetically pleasing condition at no expense to council. The community group will carry out enhancement works and use a local youth group to help maintain the bus shelters when complete. Obviously, our staff will be in hand to advise of any installation or remedial works to the panels as the works are progressing. And members' consent is hereby sought with regard to the community-based bus shelter enhancement scheme as outlined above for 3 bus shelters in the Gallia area.
Thank you, Connor. And first of all, I have Councillor Murphy.
Sorry, Chair, just a quick declaration of interest for that item. I'm an employee at the Greater St. Hog Community Arts. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Murphy.
I'm good. Connor, I think this is a great proposal from it's the Outer North and the Local Growth Partnership. And it's really important that it involves so many local people, from young people to not so young people in the whole design and development phase, and a local artist.
I've seen the artwork down in Gallia Community Centre, and it's really impressive. And people always pass it. And if you're having a coffee in the foyer, people are looking at it and commenting on it. I'm just wondering if this project moves forward, is there an opportunity to recycle the existing shelters at another place? Apart from that, I'm just very happy to support this recommendation.
Chair, the proposal is to enhance and modify the existing shelters. It won't be replaced. It will be works to the existing shelters.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Murphy. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair. And you know, anyone who looks at the proposals has to be impressed, and the groupings have to be congratulated. It's just a pity there weren't more throughout the entire district council area who wouldn't undertake this sort of project. Tremendous altogether. I'm just looking at the Operation Daylight there. I'm thinking to myself, it's just a pity they hadn't kept a couple of the U-boats that have been quite tourist attractions. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Boyle.
Well, I have to concur with Alderman Hussey, the design, and Councillor Murphy as well. They're really good designs. They're very encouraging. I think the important element of this, Chair, as already mentioned, is the community input and the ownership. If we can help a community to feel like they own this kind of infrastructure, then the community, by nature of it, will hopefully, and I expect will, see to it that the level of vandalism that we've seen in the past will dissipate and disappear, hopefully, because it's something that belongs to them, and it's something that they've been involved in designing, etc., and then obviously working the upkeep of them. I think for me, the fascinating part is that there's an education in the bus shelters, and if people are sitting around waiting for their bus, then they actually get to perhaps learn about something that they didn't know before. And like Alderman Hussey, it would be great to see more of these across the city and district. I know this is perhaps something that we're treating as a pilot. We'll see how it goes, and if it's successful, then of course that it could be extended across city and district. And I like the idea that it's, you know, the references are the history of particular places. The connection with Amelia Earhart and that part of the city is obviously very strong as well. So I look forward to seeing these absolutely everywhere in years to come. Really interesting innovation. So again, fully supportive of it. I think there was a proposer, and I'm happy to second it if nobody else has already.
Okay, thank you, councillors. It's been proposed and seconded there. I think we're all in favour, so we'll move on then to our next item, which is item 10, and it's the resolution to establish task force on temporary accommodation and HMOs, and Karen's taking this item.
Thank you, Chair. And members, the purpose of the report is to seek member representation onto the task force, which is to deal with issues arising out of temporary accommodation, as members will recall was raised at September Health and Community Committee, and a resolution was then ratified at full council, and the paper gives the wording of that resolution. Members, our officers, senior officers, have met to discuss how we would take this forward, and we have had a number of meetings with key statutory agencies in order to discuss the concerns of residents and to consider the membership of the task force, etc. And we've begun putting a meeting in the diary as soon as we possibly can. So members, we would seek nominations from the parties and independent members to take part in the task force. And members, as you can see from the wording of the resolution, at some stage relatively soon to be able to have a special full council meeting to discuss this issue in more detail. So members, you're asked to nominate a representative onto the task force in order to consider the issue, and we will issue the invitations as soon as possible.
Okay, thanks for that, Karen. I have a number of councillors indicated here. First of all is Councillor McGinley.
Mega Chair, and thank you, Karen, for the report. On behalf of Sinn Féin, we'll be nominating Councillor Sandra Duffy to that task force. Thank you.
Okay, Sandra Duffy for Sinn Féin, and the next speaker indicated is Councillor Boyle.
Thanks, Chair, and I appreciate this paper coming forward at this point. I mean, obviously, issues around and the reasons for the proposal that was put in front of Council was because there are a broad number of issues that are impacting and affecting communities throughout the city, certainly, and particularly in the area that I represent. But I know it's not exclusively just in the area that I represent that we're finding communities facing difficulties that, for want of a better way of putting it, they shouldn't be looking at and facing. So welcome it. Can I absolutely say that I think it's very important that this task force meets as soon as is physically possible, and that we have full engagement from all of those agencies, and that everybody puts their cards on the table and explains to us why situations are arising and where it is. And I would like to hear, look, here I'm in solution mode. That's the bottom line, and I want this task force to meet as soon as physically possible. I don't want a delay of a month and stuff like that. That's not. I'm hearing from people, and people are appealing to us right now, and we need to get to work right now. So hopefully that will happen very, very soon. And on behalf of the SDLP, you'll find that I'm the nominee for sitting on that task force, unsurprisingly, Chair. So thanks for that for now.
Okay, Councillor Boyle, and we have Alderman Kerrigan online.
Thank you very much, Chair, for allowing me in. Welcome the report and nominate Alderman Nairee McMorris. Thank you, Chair.
That's Alderman McNorris for the DUP. And our next speaker is Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair. Can I have clarification? This isn't an issue which is increasingly appearing before the Planning Committee. Can I ask, is it appropriate Planning Committee members would sit on this task force or not?
Through you, Chair, members, conflict of interest issues are a matter for members, but I think given that this is in relation to, I suppose, wider community issues, I can't see any major issue with a member of the Planning Committee also being on the task force to try and come to a multi-agency solution to the issues. However, if any member has a concern, please call Philip and discuss it with him. But I can't see that there's any conflict of interest that can't be got over.
I appreciate that, Karen. Clearly, it is an issue that has to be addressed, as Councillor Boyle has indicated there. Members have heard me before saying that the university authorities need to take more ownership of a lot of this. I note in the papers saying Belfast, there's a proposal for 55 million pounds on student accommodation, specific student accommodation. I'm not sure if that's the universities or a private developer, but it's definitely an issue impacting particularly in the city and impacting on the community that does exist in certain areas. The party, the Ulster Unionist Party, will be nominating. I can't say who that is at the moment, but that will be done before full council. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Councillor Boyle, you looking back in?
Just briefly, Chair, look, I understand where Councillor Alderman Hussey's coming from in relation to potentially a conflict of interest in planning. I've been in planning long enough now, Derek, to, I think, manage those appropriately. I don't. Difficulty with this is that it's impossible to know what elements of the problem we're going to be discussing before we discuss them. And then after that, it's really up to members of the planning committee, of which I am obviously one, to make a decision as to whether we think it's appropriate then to adjudicate on a planning application. So that's certainly the way I'd plan to take it forward. One last thing, and I think it's important to point this out because obviously this meeting's being held in public. This is not specifically an issue in relation to the student population. This is much, much broader than that. And that's where an awful lot of the focus needs to be. I find that the student population here in the city, by and large, are quite well behaved. So they're not the biggest, they're not a problem, in my view. They're certainly not the big problem. And so this motion here really was about tackling wide-ranging difficulties that communities across the city are experiencing, and in actual fact, even some of those who are tenants and the difficulties that they're having, or indeed the lack of investment that's going into looking after people who might be vulnerable, for example. So there's a broad brush, and I think it's just, as I said, Alderman Hussey, it's the important thing to do is to get the ball rolling on this and see where it takes us. But I'll bear in mind, I'll be cognizant of the intricacies of being on the planning committee and being on this working group as well. And maybe you two could sit in this working group. Then we'll both be in that boat. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Boyle. Is anybody else? No, I think that's everybody. So, Councillor Donnelly, I think's online. If he could maybe just liaise with the rest of the independents and put forward a name as well to be represented on the group. So, I do need a proposer and a seconder.
I'll propose.
Councillor McGinley and Councillor Boyle. So, members, that then takes us to items for information, 11 to 17. I'll just go through them one by one. If any member wishes to address them, they can do so. So item 11 is building control applications. Item 12 is DFI disabled parking bays. Item 13 is DFI no waiting restrictions. I have Councillor Duffy indicated for item 14, which is flooding updates.
For my good chair, I suppose it's just a note, and I suppose a question as well. So, as we know, the adverse weather there over the last week, it's seen some localised flooding in Eglinton in particular, especially on the Muff River at the lower Ballygrudden Road. Well, now this is not a bad thing because it's a floodplain. So if that didn't happen, then there would be in bar. But more concerning was the Castle River at Mill Park, where there is homes at risk. Fortunately, there was no reported incidents of homes being affected on this occasion. But as we know, until solutions are found, people are really living in fear anytime there's a heavy downpour down in Eglinton. I suppose I just want to commend the Eglinton Community Resilience Group for their swift response to any flooding incidents on Eglinton. They have a great wee platform going on there at the moment, who I would be in pretty regular contact with. They've been demonstrating a proactive approach, preparing for the worst case scenarios promptly, and obviously in collaboration with ourselves and council as well. So that's the question part of it. I suppose as a council, I'm interested to explore ways that we can support this fully voluntary group. If there's any suggestions or any initiatives we can consider to enhance the collaboration we have with them. And I suppose on behalf of the group, back in July's multi-agency meeting for the flooding in Eglinton, a consultant was to be appointed to move this, the Living with Waters project forward. I suppose the question is for officers, has there been any updates on the Living with Water project, and has that consultant been appointed yet?
Through you, Chair, I think there's a couple of points there in relation to supporting the community resilience team. We can raise that with the relevant team. It would be our emergency planning officer of council would work with those groups to see how we might be able to support them through Denise McDonald's section in council. And in terms of living with water, I haven't received any update more recently, but certainly that's something we can raise with DFI in terms of the Living with Water team. I know that they had a stakeholder meeting probably in September, I think, but I haven't received any further update, and I can request that members receive an update in terms of the project and how it's being taken forward. So.
And Councillor Declan.
Similar to Councillor Duffy, you know, I was driving around. Well, first of all, my heart goes out to everybody that was flooded around Newry and down Patrick and all, you know, because the same thing again, you know, these people have been left in devastation, you know, and this can happen to us at any time, you know, and my worry is that we're kicking the can down the road all the time, you know, we're 7 years on, we're talking about the same things. I was driving around Monday morning, you know, I was getting phone calls and down to the Ballygun Road. You're right to say there was a floodplain, but we were under a foot of water again down at the airport roundabout. I know that borders Causeway Council as well, that sort of line, but there's been a lot of work, there has been a lot of work done, but it just seems to be still areas. Now, thank God, again, as Councillor Duffy said, the Castle River, I was getting videos of it and I went up to look at it. No, it was right up at that age again of where it could have went on the houses, gardens and that, and then on the houses. It does say in the report, you know, and maybe I read it wrong, but I think the department recently appointed a consultant, so they have a consultant appointed. My question would be, obviously they're only on the job, so you have to give them a wee while to talk. And again, when I was looking Monday morning, the water was flowing down the Ballygun Road again. You know, it's like surface water. Question that I would have is the fields, is farmers starting to plough their fields differently, that the water is running out on the road rather than down on the, where it would have flowed down on the floodplains? There's something that's changed on that thing, and obviously the consultant would look at it, and if we give them a couple of months, he or she, maybe we could ask them to come in, either the Fahan councillors or maybe the whole committee, and give a report on what they see. Another thing on the flooding, at the last, I think it was the governance committee where NIHE came in to give a presentation. I asked Councillor Mooney to raise a question for me around was the housing executive going to commit to defending, putting flood defences into their houses and bungalows, especially on the floodplain and ones that have already been flooded. Now, at that time, I think Eddie Gallagher sort of said he was committed. Now, I believe that they've started measuring up for this. I would like Council to write officially to see if that is the case and to see what their plan is, if that's possible. Thank you, that's all I have.
Through you, Chair, happy to take those comments on board. Thanks.
Okay, so that's item 14. On to item 15, which is the mobile update. Councillor Norris.
I'm just a couple of wee points, right? So I was at the last stakeholder meeting, and at the stakeholder meeting, one of the engineers raised the point that there's still a lot of fly tipping going on at the gates of Maboy, on the road of Maboy. And seriously, some of it apparently is asbestos and some sort of waste like this. The question would be, could we maybe bring a report to say how much this is costing us, how much is happening, and then secondly, who's responsible? Like, is DAERA responsible maybe to put up CCTV up there to see who's actually doing this, you know? And like, really, this has to, we're years on and this stuff's happening continuously, so it needs to be stopped, you know? That's all. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask Conor to respond to that.
Yeah, Chair, I'll just respond on a couple of points. There's a fly tipping protocol in place between council and the department. And that sets out the parameters for dealing with fly tip waste for those councils that have signed up to it. So in terms of hazardous waste, where hazardous waste is dumped, and that includes asbestos, the department are 100% responsible for removing and clearing all of that waste. Where the quantities are, and I'll describe it in less than a tipper load, the responsibility for that would fall to council. Where the quantities are greater than a tipper load, it falls to the department to clear up. I've spoken to the team, and whilst there have been a number of incidents along that road, there have been none in recent times. And I know that through the task and finance script at the department and the project team at Maboy have been dealing with those incidents near to the gates to the former city waste and city industrial, or sorry, city sand and gravel sites. But we can pick it up with them and ask that they bring in a report on what action they have taken and some of the quantities that they have dealt with over the past while. And again, I can look internally at what our teams have done, but I know that over recent times there hasn't been that much. Certainly beyond the confines of the site, but aware that there's regular dumping going on at the gates. But certainly we can ask NIA to bring a report and include it in the next update for members.
Okay. And members, our next item is the RAAC update. Councillor Beanie.
Thank you. So it's just to say thank you to council officers for bringing this back to committee. We would like to welcome the fact that any schools that have been surveyed have not shown any visibility of RAAC presence upon first inspection. And we take comfort in the fact that there's a management plan in place if anything was detected. I would just ask that we respond to the EA and ask if there's any further updates regarding schools in our city and district, just that we're kept informed. Thank you, Karen.
Okay, thanks for that, Councillor Deeney. And the last item for information is item 17, refuge collection, and two councillors indicating here, Councillor Boyle and then Alderman Hussey. Councillor Members.
Thanks, Chair. In the corner of my eye, I saw Alderman Hussey's hand go up at the same time as me, so obviously I beat him to the flag in this one, or to the line. It's just a very, very brief question. Connor, thanks for the report. But I suppose really the question, and might be the same one from Alderman Hussey, is the detail of where we're going to see these changes. What areas are we talking about? Straightforward question. I mean, you don't need to list every street if it's in the city, but a general idea of where we're talking about. Thanks.
Yeah, Chair, happy to deal with that. The report sets out the changes mainly in the Strabane area at this point in time. All those properties have been notified and identified. And as the report set out, yeah, there'll be some issues in terms of some information and some changes, but the team are working through that. But all of the information has been provided to the residents, both in terms of flyers and also through the usual social media channels and outlets. But there's no change to the dairy runs included in this project at this point in time.
Albeit, obviously, as populations expand and neighbourhoods are built, that there's always a potential for these things to change, So, well, thanks for the answer. If that had been answered before, I apologise, but I wasn't aware it was Strabane. I thought it might have been in the city. Thanks for that. Thanks, Chair.
And Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Connor, for the report. 2.2 indicates the rationale for the re-optimisation, I suppose. That's an ongoing process. Additional properties being built, as well as the rollout of additional mixed garden and food bins. Living in an area where we have yet to receive our brown bin, when will the brown bin schedule of distribution be completed?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. There are about 5,000 properties yet to go on to that mixed food and garden waste. And part of that is down to resources. So we need additional crews, additional vehicles to do that. And there will be an ask going into the rates estimates this year to provide that crew. Now, some of the funding, there had been capital funding available for the initial rollouts that was suspended back in about 2017-18. The department have just reopened that process again, so we'll be applying to that fund for a vehicle and bins where we need them. But subject to members' approval through the rates estimate process, we would like to complete the rollout early in the new year, subject to additional crews. Financial year, sorry. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Conor, and I look forward to myself and my neighbours receiving our brown buns.
And Councillor Norris.
It's really the same as what Orman Hussey said. Like, I'm going to sound like a sat nav here. The Ballygudden Road up to the Craigrack Road, up to the Rocker Road, down the Clon Road, down the Haymore Road, up to the Barnold Road, up the Hamlin Road, down on the Cloddy, on the Longland Road. These people are contacting me regularly. I believe, and I may be wrong, Conor, but I believe it's half the cost to get rid of brown bin waste than it is the black bin waste. I think years ago you would have got your composting bin and you would have compost. I think modern adults don't really want the compost. They want their brown bins there. They want everything at convenience, you know, and I accept that a report will come forward, you know, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, share that rationale in terms of the business case and the differential between disposal of black bin waste and treatment of bio waste will form part of the proposal and to members.
And I have Alderman Kerrigan online.
Hello, thank you, Chair. Sorry, apologies, I was on the phone. To be fair, Alderman Hussey has made the point. It was, again, I see the issues, I see the lorries out and I see them out on roads several days in a trot to try and get the route sorted. But again, the issue of, is this whole sorting out the appropriate routes and optimisation, is that factoring in the potential brown bin collections? As you know, there's so many yet to be put in. Has that been factored in at all in this, or will there have to be another optimisation process whenever the rest of the brown bins are ultimately rolled out? Thank you, Chair.
Chair, happy to take that. The optimisation exercise is planning for the future rollout of brown bins. So that, you know, there will be no further requirement for an exercise in the short term. But just to pick up on Councillor Boyle's comments, yep, there are, you know, developments, property developments going on across the city and district, with, you know, property developments being completed and coming online, and we have to plan for those developments into the future. Each bin lorry has a certain capacity, and once it reaches that capacity, it's a question of bringing on new trucks or moving things around slightly to accommodate where we can. But this exercise is to maximise the potential for those trucks to get to make them as efficient and effective as we can. But part of it will be, as we move forward, some changes into the future as housing developments. We all know the significant development down in Skeg, on Caw and so on. So we'll have to allow for those and other developments as we move forward.
Morris.
Thank you, Chair, for bringing me in. Would this be an opportunity, Conor, for carbon neutral? No opportunity to move forward with electric sort of bin lorries, and no opportunity in this as well?
Yeah, well, part of the exercise is looking at routes and to maximise, I suppose, the efficiency of the vehicles and looking at short routes. There has recently been a group set up across 11 councils and the department to look at decarbonising council fleets. And as we discussed at the last meeting, it will look at things like electrification, alternative fuel sources, whether that's hydrogen and so on. So I think there's a range of measures to come forward, and that will form part of council's, I suppose, response to climate action and decarbonising just our entire fleet.
And through you, Chair, members, we are considering the potential as well in relation to biofuel for our existing vehicles in the short term. Again, there are financial implications associated with that, and hopefully we will bring that to members as part of a rounded package in terms of the rates estimates process. But again, it's something that we would want members to consider in the short term, because whilst it's not the final solution, we obviously want to move to zero emissions fleet in the medium to longer term, but there is a potential short-term solution that, if we choose to fund, may well significantly reduce our carbon footprint in the short term. So we are currently engaging with our head of finance and our chief executive in relation to a proposal around that to come forward as parts of the rates estimates process, and we'll provide members with more information in the next couple of months. Thank you.
Okay, members, that takes us to the end of our open business. I need a proposer and seconder to go on the confidential.
Propose.
Councillor Duffy and Councillor Boyle. Just wait for the nod from our IT officer that we're in